today's panel discussion, robotics on the factory floor. I'm joined by a distinguished panel. From right to left, we have Peter Kronfeld from High Tech Communications. To his left, we have Carsten Busch from HAHN Robotics. To his left, we have Markus Wilkens from ASYS company. And to my extreme right, we have Alessandro Bonara from ASM.
Yes, Bonara, yes.
Okay, assembly systems. So welcome, gentlemen. The use of cobots in the smart factory, an essential component towards optimizing the supply chain of the supply of materials to and from the assembly lines and assembly cells. This panel is going to discuss which areas can easily be managed by robots, how they work alongside other production engineers, and a strategy for introducing cobots into your factory. So I'll go straight in, gentlemen, with my first question, and maybe I'll start with you, Peter, on the end there. Some of the projected figures for the growth of cobots in factory automation are really quite staggering. Research and markets predicting 85% CAGR from 176 million in 2016 to 3,800 million by 2021. Is this realistic growth?
I checked these numbers, and I think when they meet this 3.8 billion, they will be as big as the whole SMT supplier industry. So this is quite big. And I think that thinking of an 85% growth rate is a little bit too much for something you have to produce, you have to sell, you have to integrate. So I think it will be slower, but nevertheless, it will be at a fast speed, I guess.
Okay. Carsten, I mean, the robotics, of course, cover a number of verticals, and not just into the SMT industry. So maybe this is one of the reasons that of the explosive growth for that particular segment.
Yeah, right. I mean, I definitely believe in the collaborative robotics will be an interesting and important part of the whole robotics market. Nevertheless, the standard industrial robots will remain for a couple of applications also in the future. What we should see is collaborative robots are just in the beginning. So they have started a few years ago that the first collaborative robots came on the market. So we are today mostly in pilot projects. And if those pilot projects are finished successful, then the growth will start really. And if this will be like the consultants say, this percentage, we will see. But at least we should consider it's just a starting point now.
Yeah, I think, Markus, no, you're okay. Markus, I think Carsten's got a good point there in it, as much that there are some limitations with cobots. I think it will happen in the beginning, but we've seen companies, for example, like Foxconn, who initially said they were going to invest in 1 million robots, and they pulled that back to 350,000 because they then found out that they couldn't match the dexterity of the Chinese workers with small hands, for example. So there are some limitations there.
So in general, I would agree. Number one, it depends on the application. I don't think we'll make quick progress in all the different fields in automation. Number two, the numbers I think were given for factory automation and not just specifically electronics. And then I guess also ultimately, let's keep in mind this is fairly new to the electronic industry, so we're going to have to deal with a huge price depression. So I think that's going to be counterproductive to achieve some of those staggering numbers. So I have a personal opinion here. I think from the consensus, Peter, I would agree it's a little aggressive maybe. But again, we have to be specific about what growth, what automation, what industry segment.
Yeah, you make a good point. I mean, because of the volume, there's likely to be obviously a price reduction coming in that area. That should make it more attractive, I mean, I would have thought. But anyway, what's your views on this, Alessandro?
Okay, I see that's really necessary as of the cobots, also in the electronic industry. We live as an assembly system, as in ASM, as we are working as with the cobots already, and believe also this is will be the future as within us in the production, as in the electronic manufacturing. About the number, when we're talking about the number, 85% is quite aggressive. You're right, as it's quite aggressive. But I see also not only for the electronic market, but I see also everything as in the smart factory for the future. I see definitely also a growing, enormous growing.
Okay, thank you. So Peter, if I can turn back to you for a second, what are some of the key applications that we're going to see for cobots in a smart factory in the future? And what is a cobot exactly? I mean, is it we have HEVs? They're separate, really. They're not really cobots. How would you define it?
I think just self-driving wouldn't make a cobot. I think it has to be something more, like some handling or something, some tooling. I think most of the applications are in these testing, sorting, handling, maybe transportation, the way of I get something on a vehicle and then it drives somewhere and then I pass it to somebody. And I think the main part of the definition would be it has to be collaborative. So it has to work with somebody else, work together. So no caging, no safety things or whatever. It just works side by side with human workers. And I think that's it. I think this is the most important. And anything else is pretty open, I guess, from the developments.
Okay. Carsten, do you have any other applications that you can see employing?
I see the main applications for collaborative robots in those tasks in the manufacturing where you see humans doing the work today. And we're talking about the very simple, boring task they do today, not using the expertise that humans are really designed for, but doing very simple handling and placing and taking it in and out. And for those tasks, I see mainly that collaborative robots can support you in a very good way. And we should see collaborative means work together with humans.
Right.
And that we should see, and that is also a change in the mind how to use collaborative robots in a smart factory.
It's a very good point. Markus, I mean, I noticed I might be digressing here a little bit, but I noticed when you're at the ASYS technology days, you had you're using almost like vending machines for different things. So it's not just component storage towers that they're taking goods from, but almost like vending machine type things, and you're using robots to go and collect information, products from there to supply to the line.
Yeah, ultimately, I think the application would be too boring, too monotonous, maybe too strenuous. Something I don't want to do every day.
Right.
Lifting something heavy at a weird angle or something. I don't think humans are made for that. At least I'm not. So I think there's that, and then also collaborative means yes, interaction with humans, maybe transporting something and not just being stationary. Right. And that application is very multifold. I mean, it can start with a simple get the magazine from A to B, what we do today with AGVs, and we have shown that. But there will be so many more applications to come that we cannot even imagine today. And I think there's other companies who need to work a little harder on that field.
Okay. Alessandro, there we go. So, what's your view on this? And
Collaborative.
Yeah.
Collaborative is right. It's this interaction between humans and robots. We have an interaction every time we are robots working together. It's an interaction with humans. Actually, very interesting. This is boring working. This is actually what we use when we starting with this technology. We're looking inside we use this 3D view. There's actually the dull, the dangerous and dirty. So if something dangerous, it's for the people, for the human being, and so something that is dirty for the human being. So actually and dull, boring working for the human being. So that's actually the first step that we have to go for using this collaborative robotic.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've heard stories from people working in factories with collaborative robots. They actually enjoy working in that environment. It's more productive. They're not having to do the dirty work, and it's actually more enjoyable working in that type of environment. So there we go. Right, we'll turn it round because it's not fair, Alessandro, you're getting the last question. So some people report that each cobot will replace up to 6 humans. Do you think that's a realistic?
No.
No?
It's not realistic. So that's, we're talking about collaborative. Definitely we have, due through the process, we will have some movement from people, 6 humans. Replacing this is a wrong way. They say replacing maybe in that process, but so that's what we use in our site is we use the people somewhere else.
Right.
It's meaning we move the people somewhere else also for jobs. So actually we need also more this human intelligence also to do, and it's just in the programming, moving also or these jobs use also the people somewhere else. But really replacing that, this is not also the scope, also, especially on my side, is not the scope also for introduce a cobots also within also the production.
Okay. Yeah, Markus, I think Alessandro's right that you know, from my experience, there's not been an awful lot of job losses in factories that have started introducing them so far. They've literally just reassigned people. So does that mean there's going to be a lot of retraining needed?
It will definitely change the landscape, you know, for whatever the social profile in a vicinity, in a neighborhood. It's going to change the job descriptions within the automation or within the manufacturing industries. But ultimately, I think also the number is a little high. Keep in mind, we also need to maintain the robots. There's other jobs, reprogramming this and that. So we're going to recover some of that. Not all, absolutely. So I think here as an automation company, we are supposed to be treading carefully as to how we automate. And this will very much also depend on the region of the world where you are. You know,
yes.
in some regions it will be primarily boring, repetitive work. In others it's too strenuous, too difficult. So I think that factor, how many humans can replace or allow an opportunity to do something different, is going to be very much depending on the region.
Yeah. Carsten, I think, again, another excellent point there from Markus, depends on the region. I mean, I guess if you're in China and you're making 1 million cell phones, you know, then you're doing a lot of repetitive work of the same type. It's going to probably replace more people than it would be in a high-mix manufacturing environment.
I mean, I would say, coming back to this point, what this gentleman mentioned already, I don't believe that you replace just one human by one robot. It is about, especially when we talk about collaborative robots, we're talking about sharing work, yeah, and that the humans are then can do different work, and instead of doing what they did before, just doing this boring stuff. When you compare it with high-cost countries, low-cost countries, I'd say robotics will succeed in both. In high-cost countries, because it's the only way to remain competitive and successful. But on the other hand, it will keep the production in high-cost countries. And the low-cost countries, they have no choice also to go for more automation and to also implement cobotics, because otherwise they will remain also from a quality level on a very pure and low level.
Right. Good point. Peter, what's your view on this?
Yeah, I think I think this is a good point, that there are different driving factors, like in the Western countries or here will be more cost-driven, I guess, and in the other one it will be more quality-driven. And I really think that, the net factor will be far lower, because you need these guys who have to develop it, who have to program it, who have to teach them. These are totally different. So, and I think you need them on the shop floor. You don't need the IT guys somewhere else and then programming something, but you need them on the shop floor. So I think this is one of the biggest difference. If you have a fast automation, then you have a normal robot, but caging and everything, no flexible. And if you want to have cobot, they will be slow, because slow of safety reasons. So it won't be that effect.
But will this enable factories, for example, to run 24/7?
Yeah, but you have to have your business for 24/7. So if you have a 16 hours, 5 days factory, you won't go for 24/7 just because of cobots. It doesn't make sense. So I really think it depends on application, on the way if you don't have the business, cobots won't help you. So that's it, I guess.
All right, let's go back to Carsten again. Do you think that cobots will help to reduce machine downtime? Because that is one of the big potential areas in the smart factory for making gains. I mean, people have already got reasonably high first pass yields. Sure, you're going to make a little bit more with a smart factory solution, but the real thing here is machine downtime. I mean, there's anything between 37% and over 50% machine downtime in factories.
I definitely agree on that it will reduce downtime on the machine. Take an example, if you take them into the PCB testing application and end of line After 7.5 hours, a human might make a mistake of just placing an NEO part to the wrong place because he's starting to get tired or he's starting to get not concentrated anymore. A robot in that case won't do such a mistake because you don't get tired or unconcentrated. That is one point. Let me also mention something to the 24 hours, 7 days question. Because if you see collaborative robots as also a way to be more flexible in the way of moving them from one station to another station, you can use collaborative robots for, let's say, 4 hours on one station, and because it's so simple to integrate without cave, without any difficult programming, without a new way of using vision, it just takes you 1 or 2 minutes to move it into another station or another place, and then it can remain, it can continue to work there. And that is a big benefit for all the factories, especially the smart factories from tomorrow.
There you go. So, Markus, increased flexibility there. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think for machine downtime, I actually have a different point of view. I would say not very much. If it's material supply, yes, there's a benefit, but machines need preventive maintenance intervals, and for that the cobots won't really help much. So I think some of the uptime you'll gain is really from logistics around the manufacturing line. Where I fully agree. So I think to what extent we'll have to see. I don't know too many factories where the collaborative robots are integrated already at full scale, so in different areas. I have not seen that yet. Right. In regards to 24/7, I mean, there's some facilities who run it today and they are suffering later on because of negligence of maintenance, for example. So I think we have to just plan for that. Maybe we overcompensate, and with the use of cobots, we might do maintenance on a static interval, more frequent, just to avoid downtime. And it's almost like, you know, cleaning in a stencil printer. So you clean statically after 3 boards, but maybe after each 4th would be sufficient. So I'm intrigued to see where that leads us.
Yeah. It's definitely an area that needs a lot more concentration is machine maintenance. I mean, it really needs to be scheduled, for example, to coincide with changeover times on the line, rather than stopping the line purely to do maintenance on it. So more intelligent scheduling and things like that would make a lot of sense.
Definitely right. So I agree for all of the discussion. Also, that's say us already. That's is definitely like this. We can see on our side. So this flexibility is very important. We have to think about the maintenance. It's a good point. So that we actually machine cannot run 24/7. All day, 365 days a year. We have to plan, and this is actually what we did also with the machines, and also with our cobots. We should also plan a certain maintenance, but definitely we for the material supply, for the material supply in the machine, we have definitely reducing the downtime.
Right.
Definitely yes, because we can also put, example, also a parts inside the machine. We can also deliver parts also to the machine, to the lines. Actually, we are really at downtime for reducing the downtime also for the machines.
So, what are the risks? There's obviously risks associated with everything. What are the risks of working and using cobots? And let's see, what are the limitations in use as well?
To find the right cobots for the factory is one of the risks that you may look as for a certain type of robots that they are not flexible enough for the production. This is one of the risks that you can have. And the risk is that actually the acceptance for the people also inside your factory, they accept the new colleagues.
Okay.
They accept this. Maybe yes, we have a good impression now that's in our production. The people accept it very well, but it's not every time the same.
Okay. Markus, I mean, yeah, human acceptance, of course, is one thing. Maybe the risks are human error. programming.
Certainly, and as I said earlier, I think it has a huge impact on our society. It's changing the landscape. What are we preparing younger people for in the future? What jobs will be required in 20 years from now? So I think there's a big impact on the society, which I think we have to be aware of, but also is not on the forefront of our concerns today. So I think I would keep an eye on that, and again, it will very much depend on the region as well.
I think also, but at the top end of the smart factory environment, we're having to bring in people who are virtually data engineers, who can really make sense of the data that's coming in. So, in other words, the skill set in the factory is moving up. Not necessarily losing jobs, but we need smarter people, possibly.
Yes, people.
Yeah. Carsten, you're well positioned for this. What are the risks?
I see one risk that people should take a cobot into production in a different way than a normal industrial or robot automation solution. The risk is that they don't think different. You should think different when you take cobots into production. Another risk is, of course, the acceptance, both from the employees, and that's the reason why our Sawyer has a face, and the screen and the face, and looks friendly, and then we suddenly recognize, okay, it's friendly to us, so then they become a friend, and then it's much better to work together with.
Great.
On the other hand, a lot of them are concerned about, is it really safe? Can I really work with this in production? There is still, we are in the beginning, and still some barriers we need to break down in order that it becomes the full acceptance that it should have.
Okay. So, Peter, we should all give them names and friendly faces.
Might be a good thing. Yeah, it helps. I really think it helps. So, but I see a risk, especially in these skills for programming. Although it gets easier, I think you need these guys. You need these guys who have knowledge about the processes, about the robotics and things they would run. And you need them. And you need them on the shop floor. And I think there's a pretty ongoing war for talent already in the whole industry. If you look in Germany, for example, you just can't get people of that skilled. So I think this will become very difficult. And it's not about outsourcing.
Sure.
Just one comment on this, because I like that you mentioned this. But the idea of a really smart collaborative robot is that you don't need the experts on the shop floor. That is as intuitive to use and to program a collaborative robot, a smart collaborative robot, as a smartphone. Because as a smartphone, you even don't get any instructions to tell how to use it. And that is the way that collaborative robot needs to go, and we are on the way to go this way, that those in the shop floor, they can use the robot, they can train the robot, can teach the robot without any expertise or robotics.
Artificial intelligence, in other words.
That's exactly.
Right. Well, I mean, Stephen Hawking, I'm sure all of you know, renowned physicist, he said that artificial intelligence is essentially mankind's biggest threat. So be careful what you teach them. Okay, what is next in the evolution of cobot technology? You've got the microphone, so you may as well start, Carsten, and we'll work this way.
Well, next in the evolution, I definitely see that it becomes more mobile. For example, combining a 7-axis, 6-axis, 7-axis cobot with a mobile platform, a mobile robot, that it becomes more movable, and that increases the flexibility in the smart factory from tomorrow.
Okay, so Markus, I mean, essentially then the cobot becomes integrated with the HEV.
Oh yeah, and yeah, that's the logical next step. I mean, we started today with HEVs, and now there's material, logistics, supplies, and then of course the next step is then maybe what about the components? Feeder cards. Are we towing them? Are we providing feeder reels, component reels to the pick and place? But ultimately, I think the next step is to integrate at a higher level, trying to maybe extend to stencil at a screen printer. Once that's done, I think then we have to pause a little bit, sit back and watch what you have done and see if that's the right direction. And then there's all the new stuff that we cannot even imagine today. And then again, we have to define what is collaborative and where do we want involvement and where do we want to pretty much rely on our robotic partners.
Right. Okay. Alessandro.
Yes, I think as today, as I think about the question also about what is the next step. So the next step also can be application, or is it maybe artificial intelligence? It's meaning that you need any more some really that should be so intuitive, and so the robots. I say you have to do this one, and the robot find the way how to do it. They have. I don't know, a database also for information that they can also build up also this kind of brain system also inside also the robot. They say, okay, this is an application that should use to do the best. And something happening between this actually the robot can exactly in that moment find out, oh, this is a problem, and this is a solution for the problem, like a human brain.
Right. Okay, so we're back to the artificial intelligence. Peter, I'm going to push on to our last question here, if I may, and that is what would allow for quicker deployment of cobots in today's factory?
Would allow quicker deployment?
Yeah, quicker deployment. How could we achieve quicker deployment?
I think getting them easier to program, I guess. I think this is a big thing, and then we need to get this understanding in with your workers, like this acceptance thing. I think this is very important. And I think to grab this difference between normal robotics and these cobots, I think it's really, you need a different understanding of that to find the right applications. But then I think it will be very fast.
So, Carsten, educating basically the workforce to the benefits of working with cobots.
But when it comes to education, it's very interesting to see that the younger generation, they start with this in a very different way. They use a smart collaborative robot like Sawyer, like a smartphone. They start with this so quick that I'm really astonished. And the most difficult is to get someone who is over years trained in programming an industrial robot to rethink and to work with a robot with a collaborative robot in a much smarter way. On the other hand, the older ones who are already since more than 20, 30 years in production, it's for them, if they once have understand how easy it is, they suddenly become a big fan of using collaborative robots. Much easier than when it comes to the industrial robots, which is much more complex.
Yeah, I guess it's getting familiar with the benefits. You know, it's like when we started with GPS. Who can imagine going to somewhere without GPS these days? You know, and now it's Alexa and artificial intelligence coming this way.
Correct.
So this type of thing. Yeah. Markus.
I would certainly like to chime in. I think we are still lacking a big enabler. There's a ton of different solutions out there. One might be having a little edge over this one, maybe a little worse over there. But we need a little bit of a standardization, especially if I look at collaborative, meaning also interaction not only between humans but also with the machines. We need to rethink the entire machine design. Why does a machine have a cover with a handle for a human being where an AGV might pull up and with just a sensor, it might just open up a hood, or why do I need a hood? So I think we as equipment vendors, we have to rethink that, change machines, and that will take a lot of time. We need standards to allow for collaboration across different platforms. It cannot be that a customer has to reinvent the wheel, do a trial project with 5 different vendors for a specific cobot and figure out for himself this is the best one. There should be certain standards in place. All the automotive guys are playing today, and they all come to different conclusions. That's a given.
Right.
But we need to enable that we, regardless of the platform, there's certain things in place where I, as a customer, I can rely on and say, if I want to automate this to a certain degree, if I want to deploy a collaborative robot, these are the guidelines within I can do what I want, and it's going to be functional. But
standards are always a very difficult process. First of all, they're long. Secondly, they involve a lot of different people. They're slow because you end up with a consensus, and the consensus is usually so wide, you know. But again, they are necessary to be able to build a platform, to be able to take technology forward to the next level. So I certainly agree with that for sure.
This is difficult now to add something else about that. So this is a lot to say, but one thing also is when we start also with the cobots in our factory, we think we have to do it. Just try. That's, if we're looking us on the table, so they say, okay, that should be a 100% a solution, and everything is perfect. It will never stop us never stop us to project. And you never go in the executive position that you have to do in and looking also inside is working, is not working, what is that? And actually this looking at what is the deviation also to the standard that you want to reach. Then you're looking at this deviation only. When we starting to say, okay, we're starting, we go for the 80% as a solution, and then also looking at for the 20%, how can get us faster this 20%. But first of all, this 80% get it. Just try and they're working. Definitely the interface is a point. They will point as the interface. Now we have a machines that actually is just for humans, is prepared for human, and then we have to look in also for. We have to look really also for open-minded, also even also for the machine supplier, open-minded, even also to the cobots. Working.
So taking the covers off machines and just having the bare machine there. But I mean, is that? But then you can't let a human into the factory.
No, you cannot.
Yeah, a fascinating debate, gentlemen, and I thank you for your input. I want to thank everybody for taking part. We have Peter Kronfeld from High-Tech Communications, Carsten Busch from HAHN Robotics, Markus Wilkens from ASYS, and of course Alessandro Bonara from Bonara. Oh, I'm sorry, from ASM Assembly Systems. That's it for today. Thank you for joining us.